Hello and welcome to the 2023 Instagram Collectors Interview Series. Really excited to get back to doing this. It's been 2 years since I did an interview series like this. This is a bit different because last time I chose 10 of some of my closest and most respected friends. But this time around, I wanted to choose people from a community that continues to give and bring me tons of happiness in the hobby, and that's on Instagram. So the person I wanted to come on today is not self-proclaimed, but the connoisseur of 2020-21 Metal Universe. I'm sure he would not call himself that because he's a very humble and kind person, but this person is also a Penguins fan, so it's hard to not pick him to go first, right? So that person is Justin Mauldin. What's up, man?
Hey, how's it going, Matt? Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for hopping on here and being the guinea pig for the first one. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
We've known each other now for about a little over a year on Instagram, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
something like that. And do you remember our first interaction? Because of course I keep going back to what happened recently. Like that's like the highlight for me. But I'm trying to remember the first time we really interacted.
I don't actually I have a terrible memory, so yeah, I'm bad about that. Do you remember it yourself?
I mean, it definitely, the Pens connection is what did it. Yeah. I think having that common love for us winning the cup in 09 is something that transcends amongst fans, whether that player is on the team anymore or not. But I think our love for the Penguins from an early age, and I don't know. I think when you think about Instagram and this community, it's a very special one, the hockey collecting community. And I think it was just easy to you can really tell when certain people are those that you can have a good conversation with, and you were definitely one of those people. And just seeing kind of the stuff that you're posting that we're going to talk about, it was pretty easy to feel like, oh yeah, this is someone I can have a pretty easy conversation with. What was it though about getting into Instagram? Like what drew you to get into that community to begin with?
Yeah, I don't remember honestly the exact impetus, but I think it probably stemmed from I got into the Facebook groups, and then I think from there I kind of noticed some people were then on Instagram. So I think it really started being in some of the hockey card groups on Facebook, and then you kind of naturally then learn about Instagram. And so I think that's kind of where it started. But yeah, I think I'm kind of drawn to it, and that's kind of my main means of hobby content that I consume, because I think it's a great community where you see some awesome set collectors, or player collectors like yourself, who's got the best Flurry collections. You're seeing those really rare cards, and it's really neat to see. And I follow a lot of 90s inserts guys, and so I think Instagram's been a great place for me to learn about some of those old cards, old sets, and you can kind of start seeing some of them be recycled in UD extended or something like that. So I think that's kind of how I got my start, and that's really why I'm on there most of my time now.
I mean, when you get onto Instagram each day, do you feel like the variety of cards that you're seeing is really a lot of what keeps you coming back to begin with? I mean, because like you said, there's so many types of collectors out there, and there's a little something for everyone. I mean, I feel like that right there alone just makes it fascinating to try to see something new or learn something new, right?
Oh yeah, I think it's endless. These social media companies are good about suggesting new things and putting them in your feed. So right. Even if you're not out there trying to find new things, it will kind of naturally come up. And I really enjoy that, because you'll see okay, this person is hardcore 90s insert Gretzky's, and you're like, wow, I've never even seen this before, or something, or something's really niche, maybe Pavel Datsuk isn't the best name, but there's a guy out there that collects it, and he's got a really awesome page, so things like that, that I feel like you wouldn't see maybe at like a local show. You're going to see a lot of young guns. You're going to see a lot of the new sets that just hit. And so yeah, you can really dive deep in the 90s and get some of that old stuff, from the
Oh,
old school guys. So yeah,
yeah.
I
Oh,
like that.
yeah, when we did the roundtable many years ago when they started, I think it was back 2.5 years ago or so. Nick, who is Pops with the Z collection on Instagram, many of us follow him. I think his story was so fun to have on here when we did that interview because he talked about just the variety of 90s that his dad accumulated. Now he posts, so you get people who have collections that have been built up from way back then. But then you mentioned obscure players. I mean, there's so many. There was just a Yarmo Millis, or however you say that goaltender's name. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering it because I've never heard his name before, but I've seen him on cards.
Either.
But he was a Sharks goalie, among other things, and he's from Europe, of course. But there's a page for him now. Like there's people that collect the most obscure goalies and skaters that you've ever heard of, and I have a big appreciation for that because I know how hard it is to find cards of guys like that, as opposed to some guy named Crosby, for instance. If you want to find a Crosby, you're not going to have much trouble finding a Crosby, like
right,
of any kind. So
everyone's posting those for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, for sure. I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, I think the variety on Instagram, first of all, with the content is far better than anything you're going to find on Facebook. What is it, do you think, that separates it for somebody who watches this and says, I've been thinking about getting Instagram, but I'm really not sure because it's a bit of work. You have to put in the work to really build up a community on there. What do you think separates Facebook from Instagram? Like the biggest separation factor there?
Yeah, I mean, it might be like a symptom of some of the groups that I'm in. Like you maybe see a little bit more like selling and trading on the Facebook groups, and a little less, people like just really like expressing how much they love their cards, and like, just like really gushing about like, how cool they think like a certain card from an insert, or a certain set is. So I think it's cool to see like just the natural like passion is displayed maybe a little bit more prominently. There's still like, story cells that go on, and if you're following breakers or you're following a lot of the mainstream accounts, that maybe is what you're going to see. But like there's a whole crowd of like really passionate collectors, whether they're team collectors, whether they're player collectors, whether they're set collectors, or like decades collectors or something like that. And that's what excites me. Like I'm not in the hobby to like prospect. I'm in the hobby because I love the cards and I love the designs and I love the people. And so, that's naturally going to be the people that I, am drawn to and that I follow on Instagram. That's going to come in my feed. So, that's kind of the content that I want to consume, so yeah, like that's what I think.
That's great.
It sets Instagram apart for sure.
Yeah, but we mentioned it too, like us going on to Instagram, any of us that are on there frequently, people's passion for their cards and the hobby in general, I feel like it's infectious, right? Like
it is, yeah.
Have you ever had like a lull, where you're kind of like, I'm not sure, I'm like kind of not feeling it right now. I haven't picked up a card in 2 weeks. You get on there and then somebody's posting, or like, hockey card nostalgia, Miles, he gives this big long write up of these like base cards and inserts, and like I'm really overdoing it here. Like I'm all like bent out of shape. I can't find this Flurry. What about all the other ones I already have that I need to look at and appreciate more? And I feel like people like that tend to keep me reinvigorated in this hobby. Do you find that when you get on?
Yeah, totally. I think like, whether, I'm seeing like some of your big pickups, there's a lot of like positive comments, like people kind of cheerleading, like being really happy, and just that shared, contagious excitement, like you're saying. And, I think it's really cool, to see that. And, whenever it is, maybe monotonous that you're, trying to complete a set or really chasing that card, it can really pick you up. And, you have, those people, that you're talking to on a, semi recent basis, kind of saying, oh, I love this card. Like there was some guy the other day that DM'd me and he's like, I really love some of your recent posts with like the black and gold color matches of the pins. And, like that really meant a lot to me, that, people are looking at my account, but like they're kind of picking up on what I'm trying to like put out in my content.
Right.
Like I don't want to just like put out a card. I want to kind of explain it a little bit. And I usually explain like why I like it. And I usually like post cards and pick up cards like visually, they're like visually appealing to me. And so, I think that's reaffirming to like hear that. And, I think there's a lot of that going on in comments, like I said, and in DMs, like there's lots of times where, I've seen a story sell of like a card that I need for my set. And then I'll get to talking about, that set, Metal Universe or whatever it is, that player, that team, or like why that person's in the hobby. And it's just like really cool to hear those stories. And,
sure.
Like that really does pick you up, whenever it gets a little monotonous or, you haven't hit anything in a while.
That's part of the reason I enjoy doing things like this, because the people behind the cards can get lost sometimes. I think we want to put a face and a personality to all these incredible collections that are out there. Can you give me a highlight, just other than, well, you gave me a really good one there. So maybe one more highlight of, that really demonstrates how positive of a community that we are a part of on Instagram. I love hearing these stories, and just, we've all had those moments where, and it usually comes at a perfect time. None of us post cards on there hoping that people can stroke our egos. That's not why. Right. Those aren't the type of people that I tend to gravitate towards.
For sure.
But those moments where someone reaches out, and then, like you said, you strike up a conversation. Now you follow each other. You get excited for their pickups. Do you have anything like that?
Yeah, kind of along that same vein, but a little bit different, is like I've been kind of posting like my progress on, some of the different like inserts on the Metal Universe set that I've been working on. Mm-hmm. And I don't expect this to happen, but I'll be like, hey, like here's the latest, Alon Gold that I got, or, here's the,
those are so nice,
latest like championship hardware out of 25, and then I just like to post like, kind of like, how am I tracking? Like I got 8 more to go of, X number of cards. And I can't tell you how many times people have been like, oh, hey, like I have the Jordan Bennington, like, do you want it? Like, hey, I saw this on your checklist, here's a fair price for it, and those kind of come into my DMs. And so like, rather than going alone in the hobby of like the grind of like completing the set, like,
right,
you kind of have people that are kind of starting to help out, that I've noticed that it's not just like you have your safe search on eBay and you hope for those emails to come through, or you hope that you see, something in a Facebook post that you can reach out and collect, but you start having those people that see your post and they're kind of helping you, complete the set for you. And I think that like, that just, highlights, why I like the hobby. Like I was saying, like I love the cards, but, I love the people. And, I'm glad that you're doing this series, because, I think the people, and you and I have talked about this like at length, but the people are kind of like the driving force. And, a lot of times, like the cardboard and the cards, are secondary, and, probably should be secondary. That it's the people and the relationships that we're forming, they kind of should go first. So I think that's kind of highlighted in that example, I think, at least from Instagram. And, I feel like I've really been lucky to be here in Denver, Colorado. And there's a great like hobby, hub, like there's local show monthly. So I have some like in-person people, but people that, like yourself, you're out in Alaska, like not a lot of like shows going on, and you might feel a little bit isolated. Like you can be plugged in to the hobby and, get those people, in your DMs or those comments that are really, having the personal, people part of the hobby, be front of mind for you.
Well, and there's, people looking out at shows, and I mean, just the other day, it was a Quincy Cards. He posted that ultimate collection out of 10 flurry. Like 5 people hit me up, and it was Mitch was awesome too. Mitch hits me up and he goes, "Never mind, I went on your website, you got it." But it was awesome that people think of me just like
Yeah.
they think of you when they see certain cards.
Yeah.
That never gets old, and I
Right.
always make sure to take the time to thank everybody. It's amazing. So we got to dive in. A couple questions here. You mentioned Metal Universe. I called you the not self-proclaimed, but in my opinion, the connoisseur of this set. What was it about 2020, 21 Metal Universe when it came back after all these years? Like, what was it that made you say, this is going to be the primary focus of my collecting in this hobby? What was it that did that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of goes back to kind of like how I got into the hobby, to kind of explain that. So I think I was like a lot of people in the pandemic, back in 2020, looking for something to do while you're cooped up at home. And, I collected cards as a kid, but like I was never like, breaking boxes or anything. Like my dad would take me to, like a memorabilia store if we were like out of town, in a city that was big enough that had one. And so, I get like inserts here and there, but like nothing from my childhood is like worth anything. But so I have some of that like naturally instinct to collect. But during the pandemic, I just got back into it, and I found Jeremy Lee's Sports Cards Live. And I just found that was a good way to like learn, and a good entry point to like actually being serious about collecting. Since I knew I loved sports, I loved cards, and had lots of free time on my hands. And so I think one of his episodes, he was just talking about like the Metal Universe set, like real randomly with someone. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Like, wow, how cool are those like 1997 designs from the base? Like, I wasn't collecting those as a kid. Like I looked back and I maybe had like 4 of those cards, but like I didn't know about Metal Universe. But once I saw Jeremy Lee, I went and like looked on eBay and like, found the sets and like really started putting the base sets together. And I just loved like the creativity. Like, like I don't know if like Steve Eiserman in the 1997 set, his base card, he's got like a laser beam coming out of his eye, and he's
So
got
sick.
like Terminator type, like technology on his eye. And it's just like pretty creative and unique and just kind of eye catching because it's, that foil that like I just loved the original design. That like whenever I saw that, they were going to have the very first like hockey only set, I was like, okay, I love the 97 designs, and like they will probably do well with recreating it. And I just like 97 design, and just I don't know, just was like, okay, I'm gonna see. I bought a couple of boxes and liked it. And yeah, I don't like the design quite as well as 97, but I think
nothing's as good as that.
Let's be
honest. Nothing's ever going to be as good as that. No way.
Like as aesthetically, but yeah, like I just bought a couple of boxes, and it's just creative enough, and I like the cosmic kind of backgrounds with the stars and stuff. So kind of visually appealing to me. So yeah.
Right. Well, and that was a good starting point, right? I think there's a lot of really unique looking sets in there, and it's pretty cool that having had Billy on here to talk about it a little bit, and he talked about it with Center Ice Cardcast too. Is their goal was to have that nostalgic feel, but also have something a little bit new,
right?
And that set carries so much, sentimental value with so many people, let alone here in PMG. I mean, across the entire vastness of this hobby. Those 3 letters mean cha-ching to a lot of people, or as a player collector or a set collector, you just start frothing at the mouth because they just carry so much like stature in this hobby, those cards. So when you were looking at the whole breadth of the whole entire set, did you really think that it was something that was doable? Because obviously you're going for the complete master set, you're never going to have all the one-on-ones. So, I usually discard those from full rainbows when I want a rainbow.
Yeah, I don't consider any one-on-one card, part of that because it seems so unattainable. So yeah, those are off the table.
Right. But you take everything else, any green, there's 10 copies. You got the reds that have 90, and then you have all those parallels of the inserts. I mean, would you say that it was, once you looked at the whole thing, it was pretty easy to just get motivated and say, all right, this is it. This is the goal for the next few years.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Like, no, like I didn't even like have that set out to be my goal whenever I started. Like, I just started and I was like, okay, like from the 2 boxes I bought, I pretty much have like the base 100 cards and I'm almost, like halfway there to collecting the other, 100, getting up to 200. And so I really just set that out as my first goal. And then I was like, okay, can I get one of the base inserts, from the base set? And I was able to pick those up pretty quickly. And then from there, I was like, I kind of like these silver autos, like, let me try and go after those. And so that really was like my main focus for a really long time. And then I think it's like, so that set came out like September of, 2021.
Yeah.
I had to go back and look at it. I didn't realize how long it was, but like that was pretty early on in my like hobby collecting, journey, getting back into it. So like, I really didn't know a lot, so I think a lot of it was like just being naive, like, okay, like I'm just going to start collecting the silver autos, because, it's just the first thing I went for. That, now as I've, kind of been collecting over a year and a half, I wish I would have done it a little bit differently. And I'd maybe like do it backwards, that maybe I would like collect, the most rare cards, like the out of 25, insert parallels first,
Right.
just because of like safety, reasons. And then like, I would collect, the retro PMGs just because they're so sought after. There's only 50 of those, is 50 players, 90 made per player, that like if you're just talking about long-term, like investment, if you're like, okay, love the hobby, love these designs, but don't want to like totally throw all my money away, like that probably would have been like the better place to start with retros, start with the the parallel, numbered cards that are a little bit more rare.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I just had to get there in my journey, as a collector, really learn and grow in the hobby, and just
Right.
learn that like, okay, like now the master set's a little bit like seems attainable, so it kind of is like I did it backwards from the way I should have, but like I did it the way that I needed to kind of grow and learn in the hobby, that like now 2021, 2022 just came out, and I'm putting those practices, into place. Like, okay, I'm gonna, kind of hit, more the tougher cards first, and then kind of fill out, the spaces in between, if I feel like I want to, go after that set too. And,
Man, that would be tough to do at the same time. Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. So like, I'm like, okay, let's focus on the pins cards, because I'm a pins collector. I love, the pins fan first, and then, maybe do some of the more rare cards. Maybe that's a smarter way to go about it. So yeah, I did not end up with the goal of, doing the master set. But kind of so far in now, I'm like, it seems attainable now. It's like pretty close.
Well, and that's great. I think it's so important in this hobby to have some kind of a goal. You saw a lot of people get into this hobby during the pandemic, and a lot sell out because they didn't have any direction. When they really just were kind of living in the moment. And it's so important to have a long distance plan that you're trying to attain and reach, get toward. And then when you get there, you can build another set of goals. And I think for me, I really appreciate seeing people who set out to achieve goals and do what it takes to achieve them, whether it's in this hobby or professionally, or some kind of health goal or whatever else you want to do, athletics. It's neat to see that. And every time you pick up a card, I mean, it definitely adds the importance to it, because that you're checking something off of a checklist, that is slowly getting smaller and smaller. So, I definitely think there's a lot of set collectors that don't get enough love. I think set collecting is a really tough thing to do nowadays, especially in this this way, doing a master set minus the 101s in metal, because it's so popular too. So I think it's awesome, man. It's fun to just see you constantly working toward that goal. I mean, where are you at in, like, you know, just a minute or two, like what's left? What are you still trying to finish up?
Yeah, so I actually was kind of running some of the numbers. So I mentioned that I started off with the autographs. So there's 156 autographs, and that counts, like, you know, all of the base autographs and then like all the inserts that have autograph parallels of that. And so there's 156 of those, and I only have 6 left. So like that's the attainable goal.
Wow.
But like those have some of the hardest goals, that like I need 2 McDavid autos out of that, and they're, you know, pretty tough pulls. So the autos, I'm so close. And I just, you know, I've been focusing on other things that I could probably finish that quicker if I wasn't, you know, chasing the numbered parallels as well.
Right.
Yeah, so you showed that Connor McDavid there. So that's actually the toughest card out of the whole set to get, other than the 1-of-1, you know, golds, PMGs, and, you know, the gold autos. So that has a odds of 1 out of 81,450. So that's the hardest card to get. And somehow right before the end of the year, that popped up an auction, and I reached out to the guy, and he was on Instagram. He's, you know, plugged into the hobby, and we reached a very fair price on both of us. He worked with me on that. And so that right there is the one card I never, ever thought that I would, you know, have in the set. I thought that would be I'd never get it, or be the very last one that I got.
Right.
It's actually the first of 3 David autos that I was able to come across. So that card's like pretty crazy right there.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I wanted to make sure I showed an example of what that looks like. Where are you at with, I'm going to show these next, because this, out of all the sets that maybe the Stanley Cup, the ones where they're holding the cup, the hardware, these ones right here. I don't know why I get it, the most recent one, but my boy definitely deserved one of those. But
I know it.
But these are just, I love the acetate, and I love the way the gold look, because isn't this kind of hollow foil on here? The parallels stand out, or is it more of a flat foil on those?
I think it's hollow foil.
Okay.
I'm not as, you know, well versed in the technology, but it definitely shines. I think you can tell that there's ink on the back and the front of the acetate. Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, that kind of glitters there. So for the Alons and like kind of the numbered inserts, there's 94 cards, and they're all numbered to 25.
Okay.
And so I need 55 of those. And so the inserts are championship hardware, Alon, net deposits, and alloyance.
That's right.
So yeah, those are the parallels of the actual inserts from the base set. So I'm about halfway for the numbered inserts.
Okay.
And Alon is actually the closest. I'm like need 9 more out of 30 of those. So I'm the closest out of that particular numbered insert.
And then real quick before we move on here, I just wanted to kind of show some of these other sets that you're working on. Greatest picture of all time of a goaltender. That's up there in top 5, easy.
Oh yeah, I love that. I had to send that picture because that's an example of one of my favorite cards. So I actually completed this set. This is the Intimidation Nation autograph parallel. Let's see, there's 11 of those. So I have all 11. That's the only one that I have completely knocked off my list. Some of them I have like, you know, one more left to finish, like, you know, the net deposits auto parallel, one more to finish off of the base silver auto. So yeah, I just love that picture of him being cross-eyed. That is just,
and it looks like the foil here is a little bit shinier too on the
it edges. Is, yeah. So that actually has a spectrum kind of glow on it. So that is actually like a beautiful card.
I would have loved to have seen a parallel not autoed of this for the guys who didn't have autos, because I
I
mean,
agree.
obviously, Marc-Andre has one of these, and I love that card so much. And yeah, it
Yeah.
would have been a really cool direction to go.
I think that's I think that's the only insert that doesn't have a numbered parallel. It's just an
correct.
auto. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Because
Mhm.
they were pretty common, but I love that they brought
Right.
those back. And then just super quick, so you're working on this still on these are just spectacular. I love this for probably more than most for a
Yeah.
specific reason. And then you've got your plates, which these actually look amazing. You've got your green autos, and then of course, I mean, big time. You've got some of the retro greens and reds. So
Yep.
um, yeah, really, it's going to be really fun to continue to see you progress on that. And it would be fun to do a bit of a wrap up at the end of the year and do another follow up with you and just see how close you are to finishing that off, because I know
Yeah.
it's no easy task. Just get your thoughts super fast on this one. Obviously, 21-22 Metal Universe, it's out. It just came out
Right.
recently, way different than last year's
It is.
in a lot of ways. You know, we can admit, and we saw the reaction when it came out. A lot of people were giving it a hard time because of the guitar picks and the
Yeah.
cheddar and the pitter patter and just the direction of it. Just give me a couple thoughts on this set as compared to last year's.
Yeah, I mean, like, I can see how it's like not everyone's cup of tea. Like I think that's totally valid. Like, there you have those people out there that don't like die cuts. You have those people out there that, maybe want to see something a little bit more traditional. So I think the criticism is like maybe valid, but like I think it's like awesome to see Upper Deck, come out with something that's like pretty drastically like different, and
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of like showcases some of the innovation that they're like capable of. So like, I think it's really cool, some of the, they have the acetate, die cut. And so, like the guitar pick, like, maybe that's not my favorite card, but I'm glad Upper Deck's out there, like trying something new, showing
I
that
agree.
they're innovative. So, maybe it was a little much that, it seems like every single insert is like die cut. And maybe it should have been like, let's do a little bit of die cut here and let's do a little bit of die cut next year.
Yeah.
But when we see a lot of like, designs recycled, like almost verbatim, I think it's really nice, like there's a nostalgic aspect of seeing, something come back in UD extended, but if it's the exact same design without, any variation whatsoever, then
Right.
maybe it can get a little old, or you kind of wonder, okay, like where's the innovation? So I think it was like I want to see more innovation. I want to see more new things. So I think
Agreed.
it's a good example of what they're capable of. Did they hit the mark? No, but like at least, not with everyone, but like some people I'm sure really love it. And at least they're out there willing to try new things. And,
For sure.
like, maybe that can inform something that comes up later down the line for them. So
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why you and I get along so well, because it's that positive. You're trying to turn it into a positive direction.
yeah,
I have to look at the hobby in that way because it's so easy to
right.
not see it that way. And I get it. Everybody has their criticisms of the hobby,
Yeah.
rightfully so. But as a player collector, I know. By the way, Al, I see you. I see your question. I'll get to that here in just a few. People like Al and me and very serious player collectors. If Marc-Andre Fleury was in the guitar picks and he was in the cheddar, I'd have them. Like,
Right.
anyway, I buy them because they're not that expensive. I think they're cool though because it's something different. And
Yeah.
you're right.
Exactly.
Maybe this means they're willing to try new things. And this, there's only one way to find out what's going to work, and that's to try it and see what the hobby
Right.
thinks. And all right, well, we're not doing the cheddar and we're not doing the guitar picks again, but what can we maybe try to do something? I think in the 90s they would have done fine, but nowadays
Right.
people are not digging that.
Yeah.
So I have to say, and then the PMGs, I know that you and I have talked about the PMGs this year, man, they are tough to hit. I mean,
Right.
maybe one every 2 boxes on average if you're lucky to get a red. Those purples can also be in a box, but that's your only main hit. You get like one main hit a box. And so if you see a purple, you're kind of like, because last year you get a purple, a red, and an auto all in the same box. And so it's definitely it's definitely a lot different. And
Right.
do you like that the PMGs are tougher this year? Does that add any value to you, or is it kind of like whatever on secondary market doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, like, I love Metal Universe and I love it mostly for the design, and I think that it's at least the 2020, 2021, I think should be an iconic set because it's, the first time that it was all, a hockey specific like they did, football and baseball and basketball in the
Right.
90s. So I want to see it do well, but like I'm not here to like pump its tires or like preserve its value for long term. Like
Yeah.
ideally, like that would be what I love to see happen. So if there's a little bit more scarcity to PMGs, I think that would help the value like long term. That like I don't want to see like Metal Universe be a set that like Upper Deck does every year because I think it'll like water down some of the excitement and some of the desirability of PMGs. Um, maybe some that's a little good because at least in basketball, like PMGs are like almost impossible, unless you're like not Nat Turner, you can't get a red PMG, in basketball from the 90s, because they're so rare. So, there's a happy medium. Yeah, like don't water it down, but yeah, don't make it completely unattainable to everyone.
Right.
And so, like I think there's a fine balance there. And, like it's hard, like Upper Deck's a business that, like, yeah, I was really happy to see the price of metal be half, this year. Was I a little bummed that like my one hit was like a out of 25, insert? Like, yeah, but like, there's like costs, that they have to, think about as a
Yeah.
business, that, people don't think about, that you're just like really excited. You want them to see ultimate innovation, ultimate lowest price, ultimate,
Yeah.
always get a PMG, whenever you open a box. And so
Yeah.
to some extent, those things kind of like live, and contradictory of each other. So it's just like a fine balance, that I think is hard.
Can't make this hobby happy. There's
Yeah.
go on Upper Deck's Instagram, and every time they post something, how come this product's not out?
Right.
Oh, that checklist sucks.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too cheap. That's too expensive. I mean, you really have to kind of put the blinders on in that business, and the fact that it is a business. Again, it's got to be really tough for them. But I'm appreciative of the fact that they're making those things tougher. And I did overpay a little bit for my Marc-Andre Fleury PMG, but I love that thing. The color match is beautiful. The cards look fantastic. Not complaining at all.
Right. And to Al's point, like there are a lot of platforms out there, that like if they are tougher to find, someone is going to break them. There is going to be a breaker that eventually breaks it. Maybe not a 101 gold, because someone might be sitting on a box and, it's not discovered. But, if there's an out of 90, red, someone's going to break it, and you're going to be able to find it on eBay or Facebook or whatnot or Instagram eventually, so it's not completely unattainable. I think it's just like a bummer, when people are opening their boxes, you're like, yeah, I want to see that red.
Yeah, no, because you want to root for them to get what they want. That's why I group breaks. If I usually join them if Marc-Andre has like a lot of cards throughout the set, because you're going to get something, but then you're also happy for everybody else. Like, oh, nice card. I'm really glad that that person hit that card. So there's definitely a balance to be had with that. So kind of moving away from the hobby a little bit, but also staying within it. Like where does your love of the Penguins come from?
Very randomly.
Because you're not in Pittsburgh. I made that mistake. I thought you were on the East Coast. You're not in Pittsburgh in Colorado.
No, I'm not. So I live in Denver, Colorado right now, but I'm originally from West Texas. And so growing up, I was a Stars fan. And whenever I was in high school, early 2000s, that's whenever they had won the cup. A lot of those veterans started retiring and they weren't any good. So being in high school, you're kind of more of a bandwagon fan. You want your team to do well. And if they're not doing well, you're going to jump ship. And so, they weren't doing well. And I was looking for a ship to join. And that was right when Crosby and Ovechkin were drafted. And a little bit different that, usually you would go for like a recent Stanley Cup winner, but like I was like, okay, like these are supposed to be the next generational talents, and it was either Ovechkin or Crosby in my mind, and I just like Crosby's personality a little bit better. It fit a little bit more true to me, being humble, being more quiet, like show your actions. You don't have to run your mouth, sort of thing. So I just was drawn to Crosby, and so became a Pens fan and haven't looked back since. So completely out of nowhere. My girlfriend is from Pittsburgh, so she gives me a little bit of legitimacy, which is nice, and everything like that. So
that's good. Well, and that's always nice to have your significant other be somewhat supportive of the endeavor and the hobby and everything, because that's always a tricky thing to navigate through. It's funny. My dad bought me the 1990 championship poster, or 91. I can't remember which one it was, but it was on my wall. It had the little pictures of all the main Penguins players: Francis, Stevens, Barrasso, Lemieux, Yager, among others, Paul Coffey, and that was just my team. It was the first sports poster I ever had on my wall.
Yeah.
And getting to see Sidney Crosby show his passion. I mean, again, Ovechkin is an immensely talented player. I will never not be able to say that. But he shows his passion in a more vocal way, and that's great. There's always going to be differences between players. You want that. And having only seen Sidney Crosby play once, he just moves differently. He and Malkin, because Malkin's huge. He's super tall. You know that. He just moved differently than everyone else on the ice. And these are some of the greatest athletes on earth, all playing in the same space. And he was just above. He was that much better than everyone else. And so I can see why, that you became a fan of his in that team. And it's so hard for me to, in the back of my mind right now, every time Fleury and his team starts doing bad, I'm like, just go get him, Pittsburgh. Please. Like, don't let him sit there and suffer. He shouldn't be in Minnesota. He shouldn't have ever gone to Chicago.
Yeah.
So just go get him so I can be a Pens fan again, because secretly I'm always wanting them to do well. But if the Wild play the Pens, I hope we smoke them just that one day, just because, But, that's awesome. Are you feeling like there's a good chance for them to make some noise this year if everybody's healthy, or are you kind of, man, it's going to be another 1 or 2 and out type deal?
I literally have no idea, because they've been playing so inconsistent. Like, they'll look great for like 3 games in a row, and then they'll look like the worst team in the league, the next 3. So they have to stay healthy. Like, they've been uncharacteristically healthy for a Pens team during the regular season.
They're always hurt.
They're always hurt. And this has to be the least amount of man games that they've lost. And so they're going to have to stay healthy. And I think they're just going to have to catch fire right before the playoffs and ride that momentum that, I want to see them get out of the first round and make some noise and make a push. But at the same time, I'm like, I could see it going either way. They could completely miss the playoffs or get bounced in the first round again. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I think I feel the same way about the Wild. They're in a really bad losing streak right now. They could get hot. And you know how it is. That team, when Dan Bylsma took over, man, they were not looking good in 2009. They were not looking good after getting to the Cup final the year before. And they got on a hot streak going into the playoffs. And look at the LA Kings that year. They won it as the 8th seed. You just have to come in on fire, and you can do it. So that's why I love hockey. All right, before we get to our Burrows questionnaire, Mr. Burrows questionnaire, I got one more question for you, and that is, I like putting some more, personality to the person that has the collection outside of the hobby. What else do you like to do that's not hobby related? Or like the hobby related? Like maybe you have other hobbies or something, but not collecting wise.
I mean, living here in Denver, Colorado, we're so close to the mountains that it attracts a lot of people that are active. So, I mean, I love to ride bikes, whether it's mountain biking or biking around, the great trails that we have around town, or going hiking, or snowshoeing. So, I like to be out in nature and kind of reset. I like that. I've been a sports fanatic ever since I was a little kid. I got that from my dad. And so, I love watching sports. Hockey's obviously my favorite, sport. So, That's why I follow the most. But I'll go to Avs games, fly to Pittsburgh and
Oh,
try to
so much
catch
fun.
a Pens game. And then I play hockey too. So I on the weekends I'm playing in a men's beer league hockey. So that's
Nice.
usually what I'm up to: sports and outdoors.
Very nice. Very nice. I'm guessing you are a forward. Am I correct with that?
I actually played defense as a kid, and currently play defense most of the time. But I'll
Okay.
sometimes play forward. But right now, I've been playing defense mostly.
Okay. So I'm going to follow up with the question then before we get to the rapid fire here. So much of the argument, and I'm still learning the game, right? Because I have, it's been so long since I really passionately love the game. Got to show this comment real quick. You can see his logo. Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
it did. Yes, it did. We had to get some revenge.
great.
When a goal is scored as a defenseman, how much of it is your fault and how much of it is the goalie's fault? Does that ever go through your mind when a goal happens? Or do you also just say, darn it, goal's in, move on to the next play? Like, how much does that happen when you're playing the game as a
Yeah,
defenseman?
I mean, like whenever I'm playing in like my adult league, like I know whenever I get burnt or like someone blows by me or like I just make a boneheaded play and mess up, and so yeah, those are the ones I know is right off the top of my head, and then I can think of first. So that happens quite often that it is my fault, and I do blame myself, and I'll tell the goalie like, "Hey, man, sorry, like I should have had that guy." So that happens quite often.
Okay.
But it's not all the time. Like as a defenseman, like sometimes there's three guys in front of the net, and you need your center to come down and give you some support. So there's not a wide open guy that can be passed to in the slot. And so,
Right.
sometimes it is on your teammate. And, sometimes maybe the goalie doesn't have his foot, square to the post and the guy does a wraparound, so it's everybody's fault at some
Okay.
point. But being a defenseman, the times that you mess up, you go to the goalie and you're like, hey, that's on me. I should have had that guy, or like I
Okay.
made a boneheaded play. So yeah, that happens everyone all the time.
I think every single person that's a fan of the game needs to go play defense and goalie
Yeah.
and forward, because I shouldn't do this to myself, but every now and then I go on the Minnesota Wild Reddit page, and boy, some of the people that think they understand the game, they're like, this defender is totally Spurgeon can't do anything. I'm like, well, hold on a second, the captain of the team, like it's very much, it's just like refereeing any sport. I think before you become a fan and you're criticizing the refs and coaching, you need to be able to have done those things so you understand the challenge behind them. But I just wanted to follow with that. I didn't know you played defense. So
and real quick, the running joke is that like no forward likes to back check, in the NHL, and that's why the Selke is like, there's only like two people going for it. And beer league hockey, it's like no one wants to play defenseman, not even the defenseman. They want to be Kel McCarr, so
right.
That's the joke. At least in beer league hockey, is no one's playing defense or back checking.
Right. I feel like it would be fun to be goalie then, because you'd be responsible for a lot of wins and losses. It's on you to make the plays.
Yep.
So
lots of breakaways and 2-on-1s.
I bet. All right. Well, let's hop into the Mr. Burrows questionnaire. I felt like this was appropriate, being a teacher. I do enjoy asking questions just like this to my students, and so I thought it would be fun to do this. Just like kind of first thing that comes to mind. We won't use too much time to follow up, but I'm really curious where you're going to go with some of these questions. All right. First one. What type of card from Upper Deck do you enjoy the most?
Ooh, a rare, shiny, numbered insert.
Rare, shiny, numbered insert. Love it. Name one card your collection needs.
Connor McDavid auto. Two of them.
All right, so it's the non-all-star auto and the green auto, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's the base, and then it's the net deposit auto.
Oh, the net deposit auto. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is an account on Instagram that you always look forward to seeing new posts from?
Oh, hands down, it's Darren Schaefer 5-hole cards with a Z. He's where I've learned so much about 90s inserts and like those rare cards that are so cool. I love him. Yeah.
I just want to
Yeah,
pull this up here
yeah,
because
five
he
is
definitely
spelled
needs some.
out. Yeah, you know him. You know
I
this.
don't. I haven't really
Okay.
had any discussions with him. I mean,
Okay.
the card he posted today. I was like, well, okay, time to retire from Instagram,
He's
Darren. Like,
super great, humble guy as well. I've
love
found,
it.
several cards on his story cells. He's just a great guy. I think he's pretty busy with little ones. But awesome guy. You should like DM him. Just a great guy.
I'm loving all the stuff that he's posting because again,
Yeah,
he's got an aesthetic that he looks for with cards that
right.
very much line up with what I think you also
Yeah.
really enjoy.
I
So,
feel like I've learned a lot from him.
geez, I mean, and he just threw that up there. I mean, that's
Yeah.
yeah. Look at I love Ray. Yeah, you can quit
Uh-huh.
Instagram after that post. Your
Yeah.
job's done here.
And
Awesome.
he's cool because he's not a guy that's just always, like doing like six-figure cards, high-end unattainable cards. Like sometimes he's got some really cool like base 90s inserts that's attainable for everyone. So he's a
Right.
good guy that like really runs the gamut. He has his sets that he collects like real
Mhm.
hard, but you see lots of different variety from him.
Right. This guy's pretty cool too. I love the variety that MSG has. He has videos and he has good photography, good backgrounds. Glad that you could make it here at the end. And for anybody that just jumped in, you can always watch this as soon as we're done. The replay will be up on YouTube right after this. All right. Cards you missed the most.
That I've like moved or sold.
Sold, traded, don't have anymore.
Oh gosh. Like any Avs card living here in Denver, I have to just let them go because they're great trade bait and everyone wants them. They're like the only thing anyone wants. So anything Avs is like gone out my collection like instantly. So I wish I would have some of those.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Gene Clayton. I'm glad that you made it, man. Thanks, Gene.
I think that might be my buddy Gene Cummings, mentor here.
Okay. All right. I know Gene C as well, so I'm just kind of
Oh, I
curious.
don't know. I guess it could be either one, maybe.
Yeah, Gene, let us know which Gene you are, please, so we can we know who it is. All right. Next up, in what way do you spend time enjoying your collection that you built?
Uh, if you notice in one of those photos I showed, I like to protect my cards in top holders and in sleeves, but I also like to look at them. So I have them in pages. And so Ultra Pro has those top loader pages. Um, I one of those. Yeah. And so like that allows me to visually look at my cards rather than them just sitting in a cardboard box. So
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. He says yeah,
I
here for
think
the
that's Gene Cummings, my
okay.
buddy here and mentor here in Denver. He's Miko Super Collector.
Nice. Is he on Instagram as well or not yet?
Yeah, he has two accounts. He's the_blue knight_91 or Gene Cummings 77.
All right, I'll have to go follow him. That's awesome. Always like finding new accounts to check out. Piece, yeah, this is I really like this one. Piece of advice that you would give to a young collector coming into the hobby now.
Ooh, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Choose a focus. Don't try and chase everything. Buy the one card that you want, maybe instead of chasing wax.
I agree. Those are some good pieces of advice there. What is your biggest pet peeve in the hobby?
Maybe like whenever I'm thinking about Upper Deck being the only producer of hockey cards with a license, like sometimes the lack of creativity or lack of new designs, kind of, can feel a bit stale. And then, with everything, there's negativity and positivity. And so, like in the real world, negativity gets more attention. And so, the positivity doesn't get as much attention. I think the hobby's no different from the regular world and regular people. So, it's just how it goes.
Right, right, for sure. What do you want your collection to look like in 5 years?
Ooh, maybe more quality over quantity. I think that's a hard balance to make. Like
Very.
there's always new shiny things, like
Yeah.
so sometimes you can kind of get a little bit more, you can get a little out of focus. And so, staying hyper focused and having more quality than quantity.
All right. Fantastic. That's why I player collect, because I can have both. I have
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson. I have a very
Yeah.
specific group of cards I go for.
Yeah.
And then I just, with Glass Down Flurry, I can just kind
I
of
would not recommend to anyone to be a set collector. It's tedious and it can be expensive, and you gotta be patient. So, yeah.
All right. I've wanted to. There's a couple of 90s sets. There's one called Shut. I think is it Shut Out, or I forget what it's called now. I have a T-Bow of it, but I haven't looked at it obviously in a while. But it's from Leaf. I think it's Shut Down or Shut Outs or something like that. And it's like this canvas feel, but it's layered. It's just embossed. It's one of the coolest looking cards ever. And I think it's a 15 card or 20 card goalie set.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
I think it's Shut Down. I think it's what it's called.
It's got like a leather feel to some of the I know what you're talking about.
Like it feels like the pad of a goalie.
Yes, that's a cool set. I've seen some of those around.
It would be like a $700 or $800 set to complete, though, because some of the goalies in there are pretty expensive.
Oh yeah.
All right, 3 more. How do you want people to view you and your collection when they see you up on Instagram, they talk to you through Messenger? How do you want people to view you as a person?
Like hopefully like just like a honest, like passionate like person in the hobby. Like I'm not here to like, make profit or, buy and flip cards or, like have like, a nest egg, that I'm investing and want to see the quality or, the value of my cards stay. Like, I just really love the cardboard, but I also love the people. And so, I want to be, a do-gooder of the hobby, like a long-term, like I'm here for the people and the cardboard, and, like want to do right. So, like whether that's in a trade or, whatever, I want to like not rip someone off, cause I'm trying to, make a buck or that sort of thing. So, I think that's what's front of mind and what I want to try and project.
Well, you definitely could have got both of those flurries that you sent my way and charged me double, but you didn't, because you're an awesome dude. So, one of them is happily displayed in the case there always.
Nice.
So,
I don't know why, but those rare flurries always find their way to the Denver card shows.
3 of them, all 2 out of the 3, obviously. And I was thinking back as we were talking, our first main interaction was you helping me get the tag out of 5. I don't know how we forget that always.
See, that's one of the early conversations I do remember.
Yeah, that was awesome. Now these next 2 are a little selfish, quote unquote, but I have to have them in here because I can't wait for everybody to answer them. Number 10 is, what is your favorite thing about Marc-Andre Fleury?
I think he just kind of exudes the same values like that I've talked about and that I kind of like, you can tell he's authentic. He's like passionate. He's kind of like Crosby, you can see the humility. Like he is a prankster. And I think that kind of galvanizes his team and his teammates to like really love him and, like just play as hard as they can in front of him. So like, he's someone that's bringing joy to the people around him. And like, like that's something that I want to be about and, strive for. So, that's an easy one. He's just such a likable person. And I'm sure that's got to be some of the same reasons you like him yourself.
It makes it, he's very easy to collect. He's frustrating. It's frustrating when Upper Deck doesn't use that as the reason he should be in everything. I get it, but if we're strictly looking at value, he's outselling every goalie in the league right now, which is tough.
No one doesn't like him. Everyone likes him. Yeah.
Oh, this is great. So I agree with all those things, but I'm really curious after I have 20 plus people on here, all the different things people say. I'm curious how much overlaps there's going to be. This is kind of fun. I do this with my students sometimes in their journals. You can ask me anything you want. Go for it. Ask me any question you want.
how did you get into the hobby? I don't know if I've like heard your kind of hobby origin story. So that's
Well,
like the first thing that comes to mind.
and so we only have about a couple minutes left. I'll keep it simple.
Yeah.
1990-91 Upper Deck John Casey. That was the card, man. He's in that 6 setup. He's playing the puck.
Yeah.
He looked awesome in his gear. The colors were awesome. With the white border, like that card is why I collected goalies. I could easily collect every goalie that played and have a great time. But my dad bought it for me, and I got excited and got into the hobby that way. Moved into the Mariners when my grandpa got me into the Seattle Mariners with Griffey and Joey Cora and A-Rod and all those guys. And I kind of came back in doing 90s inserts, and now making my way to Marc-Andre Fleury, from 90s A-Rod inserts to Jocelyn Thibault to Marc-Andre Fleury. I feel like I'm in the best place I've ever been in hobby-wise. It's so much fun. I was talking about that on the Essential Credentials last night with Alan. I have variety with Glass Now and Justin Jefferson and Marc-Andre Fleury. I'm interested. I have my, interest in 3 different sports. So it's perfect. Yeah, it's been really good, man. But yeah, that John Casey card will forever be the card for me until the day I stop collecting.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely remember his pads. So yeah.
Dude, they were sick. They were so good. Before I let you go, I want to make sure that we show your account again here. As MSG just said, we got you another follow, which is awesome because he's a super friendly guy. He's sent me about 3 flurries that I need, and I still got a sweet care package coming to him that I've been building. Awesome. So
the name sounds familiar, but I can't think of like what he collects or what his account looks like. I have to go refresh myself.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely worth a follow. But yeah, I mean, one thing that's great about Justin's account is there is an aesthetic. Gosh, these are so wonderful. I love this parallel. There's definitely an aesthetic that he goes for, that you go for, that just, I think a lot of people will enjoy and can relate to. And again, you really take the time to talk about the cards that you're getting, why you like them, who helped you get them.
Right.
There's just so much personable information on here, and I really quite enjoy what you're bringing to the hobby. So can't wait to continue seeing what you bring to this community and to the hobby. And yeah, I'm quite happy to call you a friend in this hobby. So thanks for taking the time to hang out.
I appreciate it. I've learned so much from you, and I think you're infectious in that. And so, we got to keep the positivity going, and
yes,
I appreciate the friendship. And yeah, it's been an honor, being on here on your podcast and being the first guest. And yeah, hopefully people enjoyed it and got some tips or, had a good time.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again, Justin, for coming on here for the first episode. Episode 2 is going to be Wednesday. It's going to be with Al. Many people know him, the Jerome McGillna super collector in my mind. He has been a huge inspiration for me because Al has a passion for every card that Jerome is on. And I think that's such an important lesson for all of us to learn. And MSG, same for him. He posts base cards of Jonathan Quick, and then he'll post a sweet gold or gold out of 101 or a green PMG. And there's just love for that player. And so Al and I are going to have a real good chat about player collecting on Wednesday. So I hope everybody can make it for that as well. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. Justin, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Had a great time.
All right. Take care.